Hello, hello, hello. Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays, a time we connect every Thursday. Actually, today's our last Thursday at 12 p.m. EST for me to talk to you from one of three areas. Number one, what is the one thing God has created you to do in this world? The second is the value tied to it. And the third is how do you create multiple streams of income from it? It's been my honor and my pleasure over the last 2 years to pour into you. Like I said, today is our final episode of Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. But don't worry, those of you that want more, need more, I'm going to tell you how we get to do that ongoing if you choose to. So as you're coming in, a couple things I always ask. Number one, say hello. Tell me name and where you are in the world as we talk today. And second, if you find any value in what I share, give me some heart emojis. If you have questions, type them live. If I step on your toes, give me some fire emojis. I want to know you're present with me as I pour into you from today's topic, the 4-step strategy to take your business to the next level for 2023. Today's December 1st. In 31 days or in 30 days, we will be in a new year. Can y'all believe that? I feel like 2022 just happened. So I thought for this final episode of Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays, I would share with you some insight that can help you really up level. Now, let me tell you what I mean by up level. If God is going to do abundantly above all you could ever ask or think, you sitting on average in status quo, you living in mediocre or good enough was never God's intention for you. So if you're going to continue to go after your abundantly above all, when you get to a comfortable level, or if you're in a level where you are settling, that's not God's best for you. So I always want you to go after that next level. Okay. So as we're on the edge of a new year, what's that big, bold goal you have for 2023? If it has to do with starting a business, those of you that are highly skilled professionals that are looking to start it alongside your 9 to 5, which by the way is how you should start it. Many people will tell you to quit, and I'm like, don't do that. God tells you to have faith, but He wants you to have wise faith, not stupid faith. And so you want to start your business alongside your 9 to 5 so that you can still pay your bills and you can still have lights and Wi-Fi and all the things you need to have to grow your business, in addition to you being able to eat. Because any money you make at the beginning of your business, you're going to need to put back into your business, okay? So I'm going to walk you through 4 steps. Grab a pen. And as I share these 4 steps, if you have questions, please, by all means, I want you to ask them. So the first thing is, have you written down step number 1? Write out the goal. Define what you want or where you're going. So what's next for you? Have you really thought about that? And have you written it out? This is why I know that vision boards got so big years ago, because a vision board puts that thought that's in your mind, or if God has dropped something in your spirit, it makes it plain because now you can see it. You know, Habakkuk 2:2 that we all know so well, which says, write the vision and make it plain on tablets. And then it says that he may run who reads it. See, my interpretation of that is that he may run, like run toward it, because you can see it, because you know where you're headed. So have you written it out? Do you have a vision board? Do you have your goals written out? I want you to really take some time, if you don't, to think about what is that big goal that you're going after in 2023. Even if it scares you, it's possible. You know, God puts goals inside of us that scare us, I believe, so that we have to completely trust Him. I see more of you are joining, so say hello. Tell me, name me where you're from as you're coming in, right? I believe God gives us dreams that are, as it says in Ephesians 3:20, abundantly above all we could ever ask or think, because they're bigger than you can ever ask or think, which means you have to totally rely on Him, which is why when you go after it and you get it, you know that it was God. So one, you need to write it down. Now, the thing that's interesting is 2:3, which we so often do not pay attention to. In Habakkuk says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie, though it tarries. How many of you guys have given up on your dream, your goal in 2022 because it tarried? The word tarry means to delay or be tardy. So you thought it was supposed to happen by this date. And just because you put a date on it, maybe that wasn't God's date for you. Or maybe it's taking longer than you thought it was going to be. Again, if it's abundantly above all you can ask or think, it's not going to happen in a way you could even think or fathom. You know, when I look at my own journey, Those of you that haven't heard my story, where I am today is beyond what I even could have imagined when I started in this work. It's a lot bigger, it's more expansive. First of all, when I started in this work in 1993, there was no such thing as a coach. I had never heard of it. And so the place that I'm in now is beyond what I could see, what I knew, what I thought. The problem is many of us rely on our own thoughts, our own knowing. And what we're doing is limiting God's ability to bless us. Mhm. So though it tarries, it says, wait for it because it will surely come. It will not tarry. You know why it says it will not tarry? Because it's not going to tarry because it's not the time you thought, but it's the time that God already knew. God knows the end from the beginning. And sometimes we put end date on it. That's not God's end date. Sometimes we write out a process. That's not God's process. And see, what I know is God only shows up in your action. Another Bible verse in James is faith without works is dead. Many people will sit and sit and sit and wait for God to act, and God is waiting for you. He's not going to show up until you start to activate the goal, even if it's scary. So God does his best work because then you got to rely on him. Last week, I talked to you about faith is fear in reverse. So you've got to rely on him. Okay. So that's number one. Define where you're going. Define what you want. Write it out. The second is you've got to get strategy. So once you write out where you're going, how the heck you going to get there? Just because you want it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Just because God showed you the vision, you don't get to the vision just because he showed it to you. Yes, you got to take action, but what action do you need to take? I see so many people that start businesses, and this was me for years, by the way, that start businesses and they think they should know how to do it. And because you think you should, but you don't, there are things that you need to do and activate that are inside of you. Listen, those of you that are here with me week after week, I say this all the time. You cannot see the label inside the jar. So you are in the jar called you every day. There are things that you're doing and being that you can't see. So how do you write strategy around it? It takes an outside person to help you see things about you that you cannot see. That's the exact reason that I'm going to take a pause and invite you to a special 3-day masterclass. It's free that I'm doing starting on Sunday. Because I'm going to give you some great strategy here in the 4 areas you need to look at. But those of you that need the exact systems in place, now this is for those of you that have a service-based business. And when I say service-based, what I mean by that is you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, you're an image consultant, you are a real estate agent, you are a educator, someone that's using their intellectual property to move someone's life or business or career forward. This is who I'm talking about. Because ultimately, there are 4 systems you've got to have in place. And in those 4 systems are where the strategy lives. And so I'm going to show you a quick commercial about my Purpose to Profit Masterclass. And then I'll come back and I'll finish a little more about step 2. And then we'll go into 3 and 4. All right. So hang tight. Here we go. I see so many people talking about finding their purpose or starting a business only to get off track or trying to do a million different things. And why is this a bad thing? Well, because you end up being just okay at many things, but never great at the one thing that God created you to do. Now, here's the thing. When you focus on your one true calling, your brilliance will naturally shine through and change your life. It'll change your life, your business, and your bank account for the better. But how do you figure out the strategy to align your purpose with profit? Well, that's the exact reason I'm inviting you to join me for my free 3-day Purpose to Profit Masterclass. Register to join me by going to purposeprofitmasterclass.com. See, in those 3 days, I'm going to share the insight that changed the game, not just for me, but it's shifted the trajectory for others that I've been blessed to coach and teach. And here's what you must know. When you understand your purpose and how God wired you to make a profit from it, when you understand that you're not called to serve everybody or do everything, but recognize what you are called to do and you stand in it and learn how to create multiple streams of income from it, it changes everything. You don't want to miss this. And here's something else you must know. God will let you live on whatever level you settle for. And why would you settle for good enough? Yeah, I said that even if you're already successful, God has more for you to do. And he has a breathtaking future waiting for you. And that's the exact reason I'm inviting you to join me. Go to purposeprofitmasterclass.com and reserve your seat. I can't wait to serve you. All right, so we're back. So, in that masterclass that starts this coming Sunday night, December 4th at 7 p.m. EST, I'm going to walk you through the four systems you need in place in order to strategically create multiple streams of income. Oh, you don't want to miss it. Listen, I'm going to tell you the four systems going to walk you through, and I'm going to tell you my story during the masterclass, those of you that haven't heard my story and how I know it'll work. Because to make a long story short, is because I too was failing. I knew I was called. I knew I was doing the thing God crafted and created me to do. But even though I was doing it, there are blind spots. Again, you cannot see the label from inside the jar. And because of that, there are blind spots intrinsic to your DNA that you would never see. So I'll teach you all about it. And these are the areas you've got to have strategy in. Listen, where there's a quote that says, when you plan to fail, you fail to plan. And for me, I failed so many years in my business because I had a plan, but there are pieces I hadn't even strategically thought of. Okay. So you've got to know where you need support and what way you need support and go and get it. So you can get the steps you need to take to move your purpose into profit. Ultimately, because let me say this, God has got his systems. When God created each of us, he created us as an answer. Whether you are an entrepreneur or you're working in or an employee, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee, God created your DNA, your distinct natural ability, as an answer. So when you do the thing God crafted and created you to do, you are fulfilling someone's need, desire, want. See, business was created. The products and goods and services that businesses give out are filling that gap. See, it fills a gap, and it really is for the common good of us all. When you're doing business for the right reasons, which actually moves us into number three. But the only way businesses thrive is having strategy. All right. So that's exactly why I'm inviting you to join me for that 3-day masterclass. If you have questions, by the way, while I'm live, please ask them. So step one is define where you're going or what you want or your big goal, whatever you want to call that. Okay. Number two is you've got to have strategy to get there. You thinking about it and praying about it is one thing, but God is looking what you gonna do about it. What will you do with what I gave you? So the third step is you got to check yourself. There's a saying that's check yourself before you wreck yourself. Y'all remember that? My 90s babies, or not 90s babies, but those of you that remember 90s hip hop, check yourself before you wreck yourself. So there's a Bible verse that says this, Romans 12:3. For I say, through the grace given to me, to everyone who's among you, not to think of himself or herself more highly than he or she ought to, but to think soberly as God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. So many of us are thinking too highly of ourselves. I think this is why back in the day, y'all, if I keep it all the way real, y'all remember Tiger Woods scandal back in the day? I think people like Tiger Woods think that they're untouchable and no one's going to find them out. Like they're different than the rest of us. Like they're not in the flesh like everybody else. See, he needed to check himself. Even Will Smith in that infamous slap, Denzel says him after that slap, when you're doing well, you got to be careful. That's when the devil comes for you. He needed to be checked in that moment. Nobody was there to check him. So if nobody else is going to check you, Tiger or Will or anything else, you've got to check yourself. What's your motive? This is why in First Timothy, I think it's 6:10, talks about the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money. So you got to check your motives. Why do you want it? Are you want it because you want to buy nice things, because you want to get a Louis Vuitton, you want that Mercedes, or you want all these things? See, God never said anything was wrong with things. But your focus is completely on things and not on the impact he crafted and created you to have in this world. Of course, you can always treat yourself. God never said anything was wrong with that. There are countless examples of wealthy folks in the Bible. Matter of fact, Solomon, who he wrote the book of he's credited with writing Psalms, Solomon, and Proverbs, was known to be a trillionaire in his day. Listen, if he was a trillionaire then, can you imagine what that looks like now? You'll see example after example after example in the Bible that when people are obedient, what does God do? He blesses them. He blesses. Back then it was cattle, because cattle was like money. So you see, Abraham owned all this livestock. You'll see David owned all this livestock. I can go on, and Joseph, who was second in command. I can go on and on. So it's not that you should not be wealthy. It's what's your motive. You've got to check yourself. The second thing you've got to check is who's around you. Because if they're not checking you, or if they're, let me say it to you this way. If I go to the bank and I keep withdrawing money and withdrawing money and withdrawing money, and I never put money back into the bank, what's going to happen? They're going to take my card at some point because there's no more money in there if I keep taking and taking and taking, never giving. There are people in your life that are not making healthy deposits in your life. They're not adding to your purpose. Those are the people that need to be pruned. Even a tree has to be pruned. We're in, well, it's not winter to December 21st. So in the fall, the leaves fall off the tree, which is a part of a system that God created. The leaves must fall so that the tree can grow even better in spring. If it doesn't, if the leaves don't fall, then it hinders the progress. Y'all, you with me? It hinders the progress of the tree. Many of you, there are things around you that need to be let go of. There are people around you that need to be let go of. There's systems around you that aren't working. What are you doing about it? Oftentimes I say this, and if you've been with me throughout my journey here on Black Doctor, you've heard me say that your comfort and your conviction can never coexist. Many of you stay in places, have people around you, all of that because it's comfortable. And when God is calling you to a whole new level, there are some people that just cannot go with you. They're just not ready. Some people will never be ready, and some people are not yet ready. But you can't let that negative that's happening in and through them hinder yours. Hello, Will Smith, because I think it was who was around him. If I'm going to keep it real. What's interesting is one bad decision like that slap. Now, he could have, listen, imagine if he would have waited until at the Emmy Awards, or was it the Emmy Awards? The Academy Awards actually is what it was. Well, imagine if he would have waited until the commercial break and went backstage and talked to Chris Rock. Imagine the difference between walking out on stage and slapping him and waiting until the commercial break and talking to him backstage. The difference that would have been made. But when you are checking yourself and your emotions, saying, hold on now, that's an emotional reaction. Listen, there's another episode here in Black Doctor that I talked about E plus R equals O. Emotions plus your response equals your outcome. In that moment, it was his emotions. He didn't check his emotions. He allowed his emotions to tell him how he should respond, which equals his outcome of where he is today and trying to rebuild his brand, a brand that he has spent years building, and it tarnished in 2 minutes. And for many of you, the reason your business won't grow is because of you. It's not because you don't have money. It's not because all the excuses you might make. Oh, well, I'm waiting for my son or my kids to graduate from high school or whatever that excuse is. It's not any of those things. It's you. It's your mindset. Your emotions plus your response equal your outcome. So your emotions start inside of you. Your emotions then lead to how you think, then lead to your behavior. So you've got to be mindful. If you're feeling some kind of way, stop and check yourself. What's coming up for me and why do I feel this way? Sometimes it could be related to number 3, you've got to activate your faith. Now, again, week before last, I did this whole episode on faith is fear in reverse. So oftentimes fear that comes up or hurt or anger, anger, hurt, any of those negative emotions, they all bump up against fear. It's almost like, a couple years ago, I started to eat healthy. I started reading labels. Oops, hitting my mic. I started reading labels. And one of my trainers said that I needed to let go of sugar. Whew. And those of you that are going through menopause, I'm talking about, because sugar is not your friend in menopause. And I realized sugar isn't everything. So oftentimes when we have a negative emotion, fear is involved. Which, by the way, if I give you an example, is spoiled Eve. See, God created the garden. It says, and I'm doing this by heart, in Genesis 2:15, that God created the garden. He put the man, which would have been Adam and Eve, in the garden to tend to it and keep it. That's all God asked him to do was tend to it and keep it. And he said in 2:16, just do me a favor, don't eat from one tree, just one. You can have everything else. Don't eat from one tree. What Eve got was greedy and spoiled. And it started when the enemy started to go after her emotions. Do you know what he was doing? He was going after her dominion. In Genesis 1:28, God said that he literally created us to multiply, to be fruitful, to multiply and have dominion. Genesis 1:28. And that's not just about birthing children. That's about the purpose that's in you. There's so many things that have come up against your purpose. You've got to be willing to do whatever it takes to let your emotions not create the reaction you have, because that will equal your outcome. You got to do whatever it takes to not be diverted off your path like, oh, spoiled Eve. And I said spoiled because she could have everything she wanted, and yet she still wanted the one thing. That's called greed. So when you trust God, you trust the gifts in you. You do what it takes to activate your gifts, which is to write it out and to get the strategy you need and know that you don't have every answer. You don't. If it's going to be bigger than where you already are, you're going to need another level of activation to get there. And so you've got to check yourself. See, had Eve stopped and checked herself and said, hold on, wait a minute. God told me not to. And even though I really, really want to, I need to stop and not. If Will Smith would have stopped and checked himself and said, even though I really, really want to, I need to stop and not. If Tiger Woods would have said, even though I really, really want to, I need to stop and not. Imagine the outcome that would have been different. But Tiger needed to say that over and over and over and over and over again, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? You've got to be willing to look at you and look at your motives and look at why. Why do you want it? Or why are you getting ready to give up on it? Though it tarries, wait for it. Why are you saying, well, this is taking too long? That's you being spoiled like Eve. Or, I don't think I have enough money. Listen, God never gives you a gift, a purpose, checking your bank account. He's not checking your bank account, your resume. He's not checking if your name is on the list. He's not checking any of that. He's checking your faith. Will you trust him despite what you can see? Will you do what it takes to grow it? Or are you going to sit in comfort and complacency? So number 4, I did number 4. Check yourself. Number 3 was activate your faith. But here's the thing I want you to get. Ultimately, the goal is that you give God a great return on his investment in you. See, God has invested so much in you. He's given you DNA, distinct natural ability. He's given you so much that all God asks back is a return. Even beyond your purpose, the other thing that God gifted to us, John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. His only son he gave to us that we may have everlasting life, that we may live abundantly above all. All he asked for us is to get in alignment with our assignment. All he asks for us is to be the one thing we were crafted and created to do. So a few minutes ago, I read Romans 12:3, which talked about you not thinking too highly of yourself. I want to read the 2 verses that come before that, which is Romans 12:1-2, which says this. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Let's break this down a little bit. That it says, by the mercy of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. Here's what I believe that means. So when you go after all that God has crafted and created you to do, you're presenting your body, your purpose, your gift, your career as a living sacrifice to God. When you push your motive out of the way that tells you to go eat from that tree, that tells you to sleep with all those women, that tells you to go slap somebody on stage or whatever's in between that for you, what you're doing is transforming and renewing your mind. See, the world might say conform. See, it's conning you. So in that moment when you're upset, like Will Smith was upset, the con for him in that moment was to say, hey, I should go slap him, because no, he didn't. That was him conforming. The same way the enemy used that moment to throw Eve off her track. She was conforming. And I don't want that for you. If you're going to go after your breathtaking future, if you're going to be the highest and best version who God created you to be, it's going to take you doing the work. Not just this one time in December because you have goals in 2023. These 4 steps are steps you'll need to do over and over again because God always has a new vision for you. As my pastor says, we grow on levels and live life on stages. There's always a new level of you. So when you get to that goal, guess what? There's another goal. And when you get to that goal, there's another goal. And when you get to that goal, there's another goal. So then when you each goal, you'll have to write out what it is. You'll have to get the strategy to go after it. You'll have to activate your faith and you'll have to check yourself. Because with every new level, what's happening is you're getting to a new level of your dominion. And the enemy's going to fight you to not get there, to move you out of position. So let me end with this. When each of us do the thing we're crafted and created to do, we are getting in position to be all of what each of us have been called to be. So imagine what this world would look like when we all get in that proper place. It's like, how many times have you watched a football game and the players are just like playing perfectly? Like there's a documentary on Hulu called, I think it's called Legacy, where it talks about the Lakers and how for years they were winning and winning and winning. Don't hate y'all that aren't from LA. I'm from LA. I don't live in LA anymore, but I was in LA then when the Lakers were Magic and the Dream Team and they were winning and winning and winning and winning, right? Y'all remember that? You know why they were winning? Because everyone was playing their position perfectly. So all God asked for us is that we play our position so that we can all win together. And that's exactly why I'm inviting you to join me starting on Sunday, right? Because I want to make sure you understand your place, your dominion, that you're fruitful and that you multiply. I'll walk you through all of that while we're together. And so as we close this final episode of my Black Doctor Bankroll Your Brilliance Thursdays, it's been my honor and privilege to serve you over the last 2 years. We started this soon after COVID, and I've been with you every Thursday. And as my Thursdays are getting busier and God is calling me to pour more and more, I'm just not able to do this segment anymore. But there are other ways that I'll always be committed to pouring into you. So make sure you join my masterclass because then you'll be in my list and you'll hear I do FBP Live on Mondays. I do other things where I pour into you. But if you know, like that you want to get clear on your purpose or you're ready to grow your business, start or grow it so that you can live as the highest and best version who God created you to be, then I look forward to continuing to serve you. Okay. So all you got to do is go to purposeprofitmasterclass.com. Again, it's been my honor to serve you here in Black Doctor. So I'm going to thank the Black Doctor team for inviting me to come and play and share with you during these segments I've done every Thursday. Again, it's been my honor and privilege over the last 2 years to serve you. All right. So with that, those of you that will come, even those of you that will watch the replay, please tell me the value you got out of these segments. Well, you can tell me today. In addition to the value you've gotten out of these segments that I've done every single Thursday over the last 2 years. So in the meantime, my mission for you, and the reason I even say yes to do these segments is that God wants you to live abundantly above all you could ever ask or think. And it's really my calling that when you get to meet God face to face, that he gets to say to you, job well done. You did everything I crafted and created you to do. At least that's what I want him to say to me, which is why I do what I do to pour into you so that you are clear, uncompromising, steadfast, unmovable, and moving forward into your assignment. Again, it's been my honor and my privilege to pour into you during these segments. So until I get to see some of you and meet you face to face, I want to encourage you to go and bankroll your brains. Go and be the answer you were created to do and be in this world. It's been my honor and my privilege. Bye, y'all.